Breaking news.
Drama! Yes, drama when it comes to Manchester United.
It's all kicking off.
Man United won't break the bank for him. And if Man United won't break the bank for him, they've got other targets.
Manchester United are pursuing an unbelievable summer transfer window. Manchester United have done hip replacement settings. They've removed the old, faulty, broken down, destroyed, decrepit attack that we had last season. The front three is gone. A new one in. Titanium settings. It will last 10, 15, 20 years in the form of Brian Mbeumo, in the form of Mateus Cunha, in the form of Benjamin Sesko. Where is it?
Benjamin Sesko.
Yes. But now the question is, and it's a big question, now the question is, I don't know if I can actually say it very well, you know. I'm not sure if I can. If only there was someone that was better than me at asking the question. Carlos Baleba.
Guess what, son? You're next.
Alejandro Garnacho. Rasmus Hojlund. Jadon Sancho. Anthony. In the other direction.
Guess what, son? You're next.
That's right. Because today is the day that Benjamin Sesko completes his medical, signs his contract before he's unveiled tomorrow. And there's still over 3 weeks left, folks. There's still over 3 weeks left for market madness to resume. And maybe it just will. This is the transfer view. This is where we talk Manchester United transfers, rumours, stories, and everything else in between. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. How are we feeling? How are we all feeling this morning? Yes? How are we all feeling? Be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've already got over 500 people watching. We got already over 100 likes. And be sure to subscribe. As you can see right there in the top right-hand corner. I've been pressing the button a lot this morning already. I mean, I might 200k? Anyone? Anyone up for 200k? 200k?
Guess what, son? You're next.
Yeah, as Simon says, that Friday feeling, indeed, that Friday feeling. Fitness Balance says, I'm feeling chipper. Javid says, I'm a believer. Sesko says, morning, Owen. Evan says, big up, Owen, feeling great. Ryan says, don't care, get me believer now. Adrian says, big up, Owen, UV family. Everyone's in the chat. Kuzak says, their energy this morning. That's exactly what we need on the transfer view this morning. Getting closer and closer, as Stephanie Griffith says, one of our mods, to that 200k. 97 to go. If you haven't already, now is the time. Now is the time. Where is the Mancutioner? Where is my luchador mask? If I had it on, I would remove it and say the time is now. 96 to go. Yes, we will be watching that very, 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 very closely throughout the day because it's going to be a busy day. We've got the transfer view, and we've also, of course, got the Trinity coming up at 4 p.m. live here on United View, and we'll also have a match preview today because we're back in action tomorrow. We're back in action tomorrow against Fiorentina at Old Trafford. Final game of pre-season. We'll be covering it here live on United View as well. We've got so much to discuss. We're going to be talking about the latest, about this possible pursuit of Carlos Baleba this morning. £104 million, possibly the asking price set by Brighton. So big, I can't even really say it. We're going to be chatting about that and if we can bring that price down. Brighton, they do drive a hard bargain, but there is space to do a deal. Also, just before we went live, some breaking news. Chelsea and Alejandro Garnacho, they've agreed personal terms. So now club-to-club talks are really going to ramp up in the next couple of days. It was reported yesterday by the likes of Alex Crook, by the likes of Ben Jacobs, by the likes of David Ornstein, that Manchester United and Chelsea are going to have talks over Garnacho. Garnacho only wants one move, and that's to move to Stamford Bridge this summer, and a deal could be reached for possibly around £50 million. And with that, there could also be an exit of Rasmus Hojlund. Now that Benjamin Sesko is having his medical, now that he is going to sign on the dotted line and become a Manchester United player, we've got a brand new striker, which could mean the end for Rasmus Hojlund at Manchester United. AC Milan, according to a report in Italy, may have already agreed a loan deal with Manchester United for Hojlund, but will Hojlund agree to the deal? Does he see the writing on the wall, or does he want to stay and fight? And a little bit more on Benjamin Sesko, because it's all about that, isn't it? It's all about that. It's all about that. From the Newcastle fans, oh, he's just going for greed. He's just going for, he's just going for money. Why would you want to go for Manchester United? Why would you want to go there today? That's what it's all about. Actually, no. We offered less to Leipzig. We offered less to Sesko. And guess what? They accepted us. He wanted us. And he's going to be a Manchester United player. And today, we've got a bit of an update on what Sesko's salary is and how it fits into this ever-evolving new wage structure that Barada, Ratcliffe, Vival, Wilcox and co are trying to implement at Manchester United, because it's right there. It's right in between these latest signings. And it's not this over-the-top wage that we've come accustomed to at Manchester United. So this is going to be a big show. We've already got close to 1,000 people watching. Already over 230 likes. If you haven't already, click that like button. Right, let's get straight into the news, because as I said, there is a lot of it going on this morning. Let's begin with who's next. Well, could Carlos Baleba be next? That is the big question. Now, a report yesterday coming out of France from ESPN, from Julien Laurence, French football expert, said that Brighton and Hove Albion have set an asking price of £104 million for clubs wanting to pursue a deal for Carlos Baleba this summer. That is a hefty price, to say the very least. You know, Manchester United will run out of cash by Christmas. Could we do a transfer window where we spend close to 200 million on a new front three and then do a deal for 104 million pounds on a midfielder? Is that even possible? Or are Brighton just driving a hard bargain? Now, the report continued by saying that Manchester United have not made contact with Brighton for Carlos Baleba, which again is kind of splitting hairs, because as all of the other reports suggest, United haven't made direct contact with Brighton for Carlos Baleba. Rather, they've made contact with Baleba's camp through intermediaries and maybe some intermediaries regarding Brighton, but it's not been club-to-club contact just yet. Any deal would be made more difficult once we complete this move for Benjamin Sesko, because, of course, we've spent money in this window and we've received £0 so far when it comes to transfer exits. But, of course, that could all change in the next 3 weeks that the window is still open. However, as the report says, signing midfielder is possible if they can move on players deemed surplus to requirements, such as Alejandro Garnacho, with reports coming out this morning that that one is actually moving along, and it's moving along fairly quickly. Continues here by saying Carlos Baleba reportedly is happy to stay at Brighton this summer. A move is considered more likely next summer. There were reports yesterday of him signing a new contract at Brighton, possibly with a release clause next year. But also there were screen grabs going around on social media of Baleba viewing stories of him in Manchester United shirts. And of course, we've got Agent Lenny, his former teammate at Lille. We've got Agent Onance, Agent Mbooms, his Cameroonian teammates, which of course could sway things, just like Onana did when it came to the Brian Mbeumo signing as well. A final little bit of this from Sully Talk says, Carlos Baleba is fully open, complete opposite to joining Manchester United. United know this, and personal terms are not an issue. They never are, of course, are they? Contact has been made with his representatives, but a deal is seen as difficult due to Brighton's financial demands, even with instalments. So I think this is a situation of watch this space. Let me know your thoughts on this in the chat with this Baleba one. I mentioned it yesterday. Manchester United historically, not all the time, as was evident last season when we put in those two bids for Jared Branthwaite from Everton, when we get linked to players like officially, you know, when David Ornstein comes out or Fabrizio Romano comes out, you know, the proper tier one journalists come out and say Manchester United are making contact with representatives or they're making contact with clubs through intermediaries, it's very rare. It's very, very rare that we don't end up getting the player. Somehow, some way, the deal ends up getting done. It can take ages, as was evident by Brian Mbeumo, that it could last 5-6 weeks of negotiations, which, of course, is time we don't have right now. So you would think this would be a bit more of a quicker process. But like with the Sesko one, that deal came together in the space of a couple of days, really. We were interested in a long time, but we were talking to him and his camp for a while, going, look, we're telling you we can do the deal, but you've got to tell us you want to play for Manchester United. You've got to prove to us, basically. You've got to prove that you want nobody else, only Manchester United. What are you willing to sacrifice to join the Red Devils? What are you willing to sacrifice to play in the Theatre of Dreams? Whether it's telling every other club that's interested in you, piss off. Whether it's maybe in the case of Baleba going to Brighton and going, look, got to force this down. Got to get this price down. I need to go. I want to go now. Then Manchester United are like, right, we'll make it happen. We'll see what we can do to make it happen. And £104 million is a lot of money for us. Absolutely is. But this is a wild transfer market. This is the same transfer market that Florian Wirtz goes for over 100 million. This is the same transfer market that chances are Alexander Isak, unless Newcastle just continue to get rejected by everyone. There's a brilliant video I've got to show you that's been doing the rounds on social media, by the way, folks. We'll watch that later on. Unless they continue to get turned down by everyone, Isak most likely will go for over £100 million, considerably probably more than £100 million in this transfer window. Midfielders from Brighton have gone for over £100 million. As I mentioned, with the Moises Caicedo fee to Chelsea a couple of seasons ago, the British record, £115 million. Now, of course, in the first season with Caicedo, it was a case of, bloody hell, they spent that amount of money. He's not worth it. He's terrible. He's this, he's that. Last season, in fairness, no one's talking about the transfer fee about Caicedo anymore, are they? They're actually talking about, Chelsea were right. They were right to pay it because he's integral. He's one of the best midfielders in the league and he's still young and he's probably going to get even better throughout his career. Chelsea just won a European trophy. They just won the Club World Cup, which they made that transfer fee back, by the way, when they won the Club World Cup. So that's the thing with these transfer fees. People only talk about transfer fees. People only talk about, and that's why we talk about them so much as Man United fans. We talk about transfer fees and wages so much because they've never been reflective of value. If any of those players we spent considerable money on or spent huge wages on drove us to winning Premier League trophies or drove us to challenging for the Premier League or drove us to going into the latter stages of the Champions League or what have you, or drove us to being like, actually, you know what, that signing's worked out, then we wouldn't be having these kind of conversations. The biggest issue is that we have spent so much money on players. We have put players on so high wages and they haven't worked out. So we have to reset and do it again. Try and sell them on. And we can't sell them on because all the other clubs go, why on earth did you do that deal? That deal is dumb. If today, Caicedo went, I'm going to leave Chelsea, people will be like, right, we'll probably be willing to pay over 100 million. We'll be willing to pay it because he's worth it. It got proved he's worth it. Long term, he's a young player. He's one of the best midfielders in the league. And Chelsea won trophies and made considerable money, actually, with him being an integral part of that team. So with Baleba, I can understand why Brighton would go that because they were like, look, we've set a precedent for it. Now, do I think Manchester United will pay £104 million? I don't think so. I think United will try and haggle it. I think United might be able to. I think United might be able to find a situation where they drop it. An initial fee is obviously lower and they can maybe not get up to 104. They might get up to like, let's say total 90, 95, something like that. And it might be like a 75, lots of add-ons. Some are a lot easier. Some are maybe more difficult. I think United will give it a go. And I think when it pertains to this Alejandro Garnacho situation that we're seeing this morning, if we can get that close to £50 million package, that's pure profit. And as we've mentioned many a time, when it's pure profit, you can double that number, sometimes treble that number. which can get you into that conversation of doing this deal. Obviously, it's got to help out for other transfers like the Sesko one that we've done already. But on top of that, we've still got these other players that we are still expecting. It hasn't happened yet, but we are still expecting to go. Your Jadon Sanchos, your Anthony's, and the real sort of curveball in all of this too, that I brought up a couple of times over the last few days, is also this Mason Greenwood situation. This Mason Greenwood situation in France with a possible move to Saudi could be the key to all of it that we haven't even considered, which is Manchester United retain a 50% sell-on clause for a Mason Greenwood transfer. And he is being linked with a move to Saudi. And because he had a standout season at Marseille last year, Marseille reportedly are wanting around 80 odd million pounds. If that is the case, Manchester United could be looking at a cash windfall of 40 million of pure profit. It would take the total fee for Mason Greenwood to around 69 million pounds of pure profit on the PSR point of view. And that is considerable when then you factor in the Alejandro Garnacho situation and you factor in a possible loan exit for Hojlund with an obligation or an option. Dominoes could start to fall. Dominoes could start to fall actually quite quickly in the next couple of days. And if that is the case, suddenly an asking price of 104 million pounds, maybe just a bit below it into that kind of 90, 95 million pounds, suddenly does not seem too impossible, does it? And this is the other part I mentioned yesterday too, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this on social media as well. There is this kind of theory, and this is a gamble. This is a gamble. This is high risk, high reward settings. Some people are saying, if there ever was a season to gamble, and I don't even really know how I feel about this, so let me know what you think. If there was ever a season to gamble and dip into next year and go, we're playing one game a week. Our full focus is on the league this season. And I'm not talking about win it, because I still think, regardless of the signings we make, that might be a bit out of our reach. But get into the top four, get back into the Champions League, get a firm footing, re-establish yourself as one of the top teams in the league again. If there was a season to dip into next year's transfer budget or what have you, would it be this season? Which would, again, go against everything that Ineos are trying to do at the moment. That would go against the idea that Ineos, they're trying to, make sure spending doesn't get out of control. They're trying to make sure that spending gets actually a bit more under control. Wages aren't totally out of control either. But if there was a season to do it, would it be this season? Considering the schedule that we've got, the lighter schedule, the advantage that we would have over other teams. You look at Chelsea, ironically enough, when they weren't in Europe, it was still iffy, because they were totally out of control. But it's not the worst idea, is it? It's not the worst idea. And I'm not saying I'll go spend all that money just to go win the title. But if you sort of went, you know what? We can build a side here that's good enough just to be in the Champions League next still for the next however many seasons and be challenging for titles. Could be this season. We've got a full week. We don't have that level of fatigue. We don't have that level of rotation that every other, the other big teams have. And on top of this is the other part of it too. If there was ever a season to do it, it might be this one, because a lot of the top teams, not all of them, but a lot of the top teams, they didn't stop playing throughout the summer. We're talking about Chelsea. Chelsea, they won the Club World Cup, but they were playing all the way through the summer. They haven't had a break. Look at Man City. They played, not to the super latter stages in the Club World Cup, but they were still playing in that Club World Cup. And we saw what happened with them last season of the fatigue was just too much for them, that they started to drop off. So Man United could see that, and you might go, it's not what we thought we were going to do. But actually, from a strategic point, from a strategic point of view, it might be a season to go for it. It just might. Suran says, but Chelsea got a big squad. That is true, but some of their players are going down with injury. Look at Colwell. He's just done his ACL. He's out for the season, near enough. So players will break down as well, because this is how ridiculous and out of control the football schedule is at this point too. And with how out of control the football schedule is, are United would it be wise to use that to our advantage? What have we got to our advantage? We've got players that want to play for us, and we've got a schedule that is actually quite kind in comparison to most of the other top teams. Something to think about, isn't it? Indeed. We've got close to 2K watching, by the way, folks, which is fantastic this early on into the show. A solo-in show for you this morning. Flex and KG will be with me at 4 p.m. live for the Trinity. So be sure to join us later on. We are less than 50 likes away from 500 likes already. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Let's get the likes flying up this morning. And as you can see there in the top right-hand corner, look at that. Now, down to 90 subscribers to go until 200K. It's getting closer, isn't it? Getting closer and closer and closer. Mostly has been a member from up. Says, big up UV community. Owen, you reckon top 4 is possible with our new front 3? Do you know what? It's going to be, I think we're going to have as a fan base. I know certainly we'll have it as a community before next Sunday, just about what our expectations are for the season ahead, because we kind of talked about this the other day, didn't we? Going, what it's difficult to judge, isn't it? Because when you finish 15th, the improvement required to get into the Champions League, that's vast. But at the same time, we've invested a lot of money, and we did lose a lot of games last season by the odd goal, or we did lose quite a lot of games by 1-0, 2-1. And it wasn't necessarily a massive defensive issue last season. It was a scoring issue. So if you replace that, you get closer. I don't know. I'm still saying flat Europe in general, I think United need to aim for, which maybe isn't what people want to hear. Going, you can't spend that and get Europa League. I think if we, I'm still going to go with just flat Europe. I'm not going to be picky on the European competition for now. But if more money is spent, like a Baleba, like getting a goalkeeper in, then I start going, well, you've got to. The pressure is inevitable. The pressure is inevitable anyway at Manchester United. Just because we finished 15th, don't think people are going to now be, like towards the end of last season where we were losing so many games, we were 15th. People actually stopped caring. United fans and also the ops. The ops actually stopped taking the piss after a while, didn't they? Like they were like, oh, can't even be bothered. It's not even funny anymore. Make no mistake, it's a new season. It's a fresh start in that regard. So if we lose games, like if we lose against Arsenal or we lose against Fulham or Burnley, people will be on to us because it's fresh again. Last season was last season. It doesn't matter. So the expectation, I think, will be high. Will be higher. So I think I still say blanket Europe, but with the more players you get, I think you've got to be looking towards those Champions League spots inevitably. Joe says, a Baleba is only worth 70 million. Let's be honest. Well, it depends, doesn't it? It depends. This is the thing on value. It's arbitrary, isn't it? When it comes to Brighton, he might be worth over 100 million to them. Brighton this close to a season. They've lost significant big players in recent years. They'll always replace them. Of course, they'll always replace them. But that's also what Brighton do. They sell and they sell well. So they're not going to be taken for mugs in that regard. And like I said, with the Caicedo one, at the time, myself included, I'd gone 115 million pounds for Moises Caicedo. That is a joke. That is that's ridiculous. We just don't talk about it that much anymore because he's proven to be good. And Chelsea have now won some stuff, so people don't care. So with the Carlos Baleba one, I don't really begrudge Brighton that much for going, we want 104 million pounds. I don't think United should necessarily pay that, and I don't think United will pay that if we do get him. But I don't go, he's definitely not worth that, because at the same time, who knows what anyone's worth anymore? The football market is out of control. We're going to talk about Garnacho in just a second. Like, again, you see Noni Madueke go to Arsenal for like 50 odd million this summer. I think clubs have tried to do it over the summer, and this is what we're doing with the Garnacho one, going, well, if he's worth this, they're worth this. This was like the Brian Mbeumo one again, wasn't it? Brentford were going, well, if you signed Mateus Cunha for 62.5, then Brian Mbeumo's worth 70 because we think he's better. You know, it's all arbitrary, isn't it, really? A couple more super chats here, then we'll get to the Garnacho stuff. Says Aki says, gut feeling, a big bomber is going to drop Baleba to United. I don't think that one will be as fast as the Sesko to United. That one was relatively fast because he kind of agreed, hadn't he, with Leipzig that if what he deemed as a big club came in, they would let him go this summer. Brighton aren't actively looking to sell him, but I think United will try. And I think they'll try till the end. If they can move players on in a relatively quick manner, like I said, some things do happen, some dominoes do fall. I think they'll give it a go. I think Jason Wilcox, from the information that we have anyway, is that Jason Wilcox very keen on Baleba. And again, that's why those rumours have been going around a while, because he's keen. United are very keen on Carlos Baleba. Amanor says, where does Maino fit in if we get Baleba? I wouldn't worry about Cobby. I know that lots of people do worry about Cobby and worry about where he's going to go and how he's going to fit into the system. I think in pre-season, a couple of times Cobby's played against Bournemouth. I think he did really well, deeper on. And still, regardless of the fact we've got one game a week, you still need a squad. You still need players. We do this as well quite often, don't we? Where if we sign one player, we go, what does this mean about that player? It's always been a squad game. And with Cobby, that'll be no different. Cobby's young. You know, Cobby's still young. What we have to do with Cobby, in my opinion anyway, is take the world off his shoulders. Because for the last 2 seasons, that's all we've done is put the world on his shoulders. That's why I wasn't an advocate for just giving him what he wanted in terms of the contract demands, if indeed they were true, because he's still a young player. So is Carlos Baleba. He's a young player too. So if we signed him, we shouldn't give him a huge wage because he's young, in the same way that we signed Sesko, and it's not a massive wage. He's not become the highest earner at the club or anything like that. He's a young player. Cobby's still a young player. He's not really had full seasons, uninterrupted seasons in the first team. You know, his breakthrough season, he missed half the season through injury. Last season, he missed a sizable chunk of the season through injury as well. So Cobby just needs to get his head down and continue on. But I don't think there's a concern about his future because, you know, obviously Cobby was put into that camp with, you know, Garnacho and Rashford previously of, you know, these are homegrown players that could go. But I don't think as of right now, Cobby's in that same boat of having disciplinary or attitude problems that Rashford and Garnacho have had with Ruben Amorim. So I don't worry too much for Cobby in that regard. Right, we've got over 2K watching, folks. We are over 500 likes. Next stop is 750. So if you haven't already clicked that like button, let's get to 750 likes. Also, we are 81. Is that right? 81 subscribers away from 200K. So if you haven't already subscribed, let's see how close we can get to moving all of those numbers over at the same time this morning. Changing that 1 on the left to a 2 and the rest to zeros. Oh, what a moment it would be. What a moment it would be indeed. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Alejandro Garnacho. So reports came out yesterday, of course, first broken, hat tipped Ben Jacobs and Alex Crook for TalkSport regarding that really talks were ramping up when it comes to Alejandro Garnacho to Chelsea. It was later reported, of course, by David Ornstein that once again, these talks were set to pick up between the two clubs. Ben Jacobs said that more on the Garnacho story from previous with Alex Crook. Manchester United want £50 million, which is down from the 60 million plus that they wanted in January. Formal talks are now ongoing, with Chelsea hoping for a price drop as Manchester United are looking to sell. Garnacho is waiting for an agreement. He expects the move to happen. Now, just before we went live this morning, Fabrizio Romano dropped this on his social media platform, saying that he understands Alejandro Garnacho has agreed every detail of personal terms with Chelsea. Deal done on the player side. He only wants Chelsea, as revealed previously in July. Talks with Man United will follow about the next step soon. People have been worried that because Chelsea are going to get Xavi Simons, then that meant that they weren't going to get Garnacho. They're going to get both. Chelsea love to buy a winger, and they actually still need to because obviously Kenda's not coming till next season. They've obviously got Mudryk still dealing with the suspension problems, with the doping situation. Sancho, of course, went back to Manchester United. So there is room for more wingers to come in, which is why they're going for those two. Now, it had actually, it was kind of a bit lost in the article that David Ornstein wrote yesterday about this. And it's something that, shout out James from the Uppeteers, Tier 1 James, had mentioned quite a bit on the channel for several months, really going as far as back as January, that this has only ever been about one club for Alejandro Garnacho. Garnacho has actively turned down a lot of moves elsewhere in January and in this summer, particularly. That's kind of the reason why it's been very quiet surrounding Garnacho, is every other club that's kind of come in, whether it be Bayer Leverkusen, where there was real concrete interest, considering past links with Ten Hag, and obviously Bayer Leverkusen got a lot of money. They've sold a lot of players in this window. Wirtz, Frimpong, Xhaka, etc. They've all gone. So Bayer Leverkusen has got a lot of cash to spend, but wasn't interested. Napoli, of course, had some fringe interest in Alejandro Garnacho. Rebuffed, never really got that far. It's only ever really been Chelsea. That's why since January, it was a two-way street in January. It wasn't Chelsea just pursuing Garnacho and Garnacho going, "I'm a Man United player. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a Man United player. I'm just not interested." He's been looking for that Chelsea move. He's been looking for that Chelsea move since January. Well, since even probably earlier, since sort of December, since the time that he was left out of the Manchester derby when he and Rashford was dropped at the Etihad when we won 2-1. He's been looking for that Chelsea move really ever since, in the same way that Marcus Rashford has only ever been looking for that Barcelona move ever since. In the case of Rashford, he couldn't go to Barca in the winter, so he went to Aston Villa with a view of moving to Barca in the summer, which he's done. With the case of Garnacho, he wanted to move to Chelsea in the winter. That wasn't necessarily possible, so he stayed. Got his head down until the summer. But once the season ended, it became very, very clear from Garnacho, post-Europa League comments, he wanted out. He wanted out and he didn't want to come back. And Ruben wanted Garnacho out and he didn't want him to come back. Therefore, he was left out of the tour squad, told in front of the entire squad, you better pray and hope that you find a move. And his prayers seemingly have been answered because this Chelsea move looks like it's going to happen. Now it's just a case of the fee, isn't it? Now it's just a case of the fee. And this has been subject to a lot of debate by really both sets of fan bases over this summer, because I obviously can't speak for Chelsea. I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I see like Matisse and others kind of going, Garnacho, I'm not really feeling that, for the money that they could spend. We're going, look, it's an academy player. For even the people that don't rate him, have to understand that he's still very young. He's played over 100 times for United. He's scored in major cup finals, i.e. the FA Cup. And he's been pretty much a regular in the team for the best part of 2-3 seasons now, at a very young age, at a Premier League big club in United. If that was any other club across Europe and you were pursuing a player like that, you'd be being charged a high premium. It's just in this case, Manchester United are quite desperate to sell. So in that regard, the price is probably going to come down a bit, but he's still one of, if not our most sellable asset in terms of revenue, in terms of pure profit, certainly. So we've got to get the deal that's best for Manchester United, despite our desperation to sell. So you're probably looking at, again, that £50 million mark. I think Chelsea are probably try and get it down to around like 40, 45. I think we could end up in a situation where it's maybe like a 40 plus 10, 45 plus 5. I said with United, I think actually a smart move, if we were going to really think maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead, try and get a sell-on clause in there. If Chelsea are really saying we're not willing to get to a £50 million package, I think if you get a sell-on clause in there, I think that benefits Man United in the long run, because despite having super long contracts at Chelsea, there still isn't a huge amount of longevity in there. I think someone like Madueke is a great example of that, of someone that at the end of this coming season, I don't think most people thought, Madueke's going to end up going to Arsenal. You'd be like, no, if anything, he was playing quite regularly for Chelsea and he's getting a little bit better, still very inconsistent, finishing quite similar to Garnacho actually in front of goal, missing chances. But I thought, Chelsea players got a long contract. Most of the players at Chelsea got long contracts, but it doesn't mean really anything. Because if Chelsea want to get rid of you, they'll get rid of you, as is evident by other players they've signed with long contract. People like Tasazi, gone. Armando Broja, gone. He's gone to Burnley. Who else is left this summer? So it's always the case. Chelsea exits, right? So if I was United, I'd get a sell-on clause because chances are, through our experience of him at United and the off-the-field issues and the brother on social media and what have you, I wouldn't be shocked if he is gone from Chelsea in 2 or 3 seasons. And because of his talent, I think Chelsea would still get a pretty penny for him. He'd be older, hopefully more consistent, you would think, at that stage in his career. And maybe he would get that move to Spain or what have you that he's looking for. So at that point, yeah, I'd say, man, if you can get a 20, 25, 30% salon clause in that deal, and maybe that's how you agree the deal of 40 plus 5, or maybe even it is as low as 30 plus 10, something like that, but you can get that salon clause. Yeah, that's like I said, I think that's thinking a couple of steps ahead, because he won't be at Chelsea for very long, because Chelsea are good. And Chelsea are good at moving players on, even players, except Raheem Sterling, who they'll never give a contract like that again, like that high for that age of a player. I think that if you get that salon clause in there, I think Man United will get some benefit out of that in the future, because it's the perfect combination, really, isn't it? It's a player that has had disciplinary issues and chances are will get itchy feet if he's not playing, in a team that moves players on and has a very big squad. So it's when it goes together, I think that ends up benefiting Manchester United in the long run. I wouldn't be shocked, or I hope that Manchester United would be thinking of something like that. But initially, cash is king, and we want as much pure profit now as we possibly can. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But he's going to Chelsea. There is no chance, I think, touch wood, but there's no chance I think this falls through at this stage now. I suppose you always have to be wary when it comes to Chelsea, because craziness can happen with them in the transfer window. Stuff can fall apart with them, and they can just go get someone else and very quickly, or they'll jump into someone else's transfer negotiations who have been going after a player. So you can't rule that out. But he wants Chelsea, and I think that move's going to happen. So with that money, that's when we go into your possible Balebas or goalkeepers or something like that. So that's the latest for Alejandro Garnacho. We're nearly at 700 likes, 6 likes away from 700 likes, folks. So if you haven't already clicked that like button, we've got over 2,100 people watching right now. And we are 70 subscribers away from 200,000 subscribers. Is today going to be the day? By the time we have the Trinity later on at 4 p.m. live, Flex, KG, and myself, will it be? It's moved again. Now it's down to 69. Pause. Amanor.
Ooh, chavo.
One of those. Got to be careful. Weary. It's early. Good. 68 now. Very quickly. I'll tell you what, that was lucky, because that was for the moment. So yes. Now 67 on that road to 200k. So by the time we're live later on, Trinity, 4 p.m, maybe we might hit that 200k mark. And we're less than 20 now to 750 likes. Right, after Garnacho, we got to talk about another exit for Rasmus Hojlund. Now, this is interesting because, of course, Sesko, he's going to be signing his contract. We've got a new striker. We've got a new number 9, guys. What does it mean for Hojlund? Does it mean a move to AC Milan? Fabrizio Romano reporting that Manchester United are set to discuss with Rasmus Hojlund about his future. AC Milan are aware of a possible opportunity on an initial loan with a heavy loan fee and salary covered. Hojlund insists on staying at Man United. He is not scared by competition. Now, look at that once again, because I know once we say loan, people will roll their eyes and go, no, just give us, his price was 30 million. But then I saw Ben Jacobs yesterday reported, no, it's actually not 30 million. It's gone back up to 40 million. But complete salary coverage, how much money is Rasmus Hojlund on, you ask? I think it's about 85k a week. A heavy loan fee that could possibly be about, what's a heavy loan fee? 5 million quid, something like that, maybe a little bit more. It's better than nothing if nothing is an option, but it's not an option just yet. In fact, Gianluca Di Marzio kind of went one step further, saying that Manchester United have agreed, not even like this is discussed, they've agreed this, a loan deal with an option to buy for Rasmus Hojlund. Factoring in what Romano's just saying there, saying that heavy loan fee, salary covered, and a buy option, probably you would think in and around 30, 35 million. But we shall see. AC Milan are currently in pole position, according to Gianluca Di Marzio. However, the players' approval for his departure is still pending. That's the critical one. That last bit, that's the critical part in all of this, isn't it? Which is, what does Rasmus Hojlund want to do? Because as we saw during the tour in pre-season, he's very firm on he wants to stay. He's very, very firm on, I'm happy to fight for my place. I've not been told that I'm leaving. I've not been told that I'm surplus to requirements. I've not been told that, I've got to leave. So until I'm told otherwise, I guess I'm going to still be here because I still want to be here. And it was actually really interesting hearing from Flex yesterday when we spoke about this, kind of the context surrounding how those quotes came out and how Hojlund, effectively did a bit of a Mo Salah last season where he just kind of walked up to the pack of journalists in the mix zone and started talking. And you only really do that when you've got a message to get out there, which, people like Mo Salah, again, played a blinder last season, getting his new contract at Liverpool, because I kind of discussed it yesterday when we were talking about this. It's funny how all of this, how it changes over time. Back in sort of the 70s, 80s, 90s, the players, they talk to journalists all the time, and they still do. But players talk to the journalists off the record, get in the written media, but it was difficult to track down who would say these things to people, and it was like, that's just what it was. As we got more into the social media era and age, that's where players got more surrounded, by representatives, by PR. PR. Every player's got a PR rep. Every player works with a PR company and puts out calculated posts and tweets and statements and what have you. And that was the thing for a while. But it's almost like that authenticity of doing it on social media has kind of worn off for, I think, a lot of football fans and how they look at football players. I think now fans just want to see the player talk. You know what I mean? Fans just want to see the player talk. If that's in the case of talking to a journalist, but on camera, like Hojlund did, or in the case of they go onto their social media and they do a video or they just talk or what have you, or they do interviews, I think fans want to see that more. Now, there's a limit, because just talking and doing interviews or whatever will never, ever make up for a lack of performance or frustration on the pitch. I think someone like Marcus Rashford is the case study on that. Or last season, Ruben Amorim was a case study on that, of the amount of interviews, and words are just words. Actions will always speak louder than, and you've got to back it up by performances, by results, by intention, which is why I think a lot of the interviews in pre-season that people have done, people have just kind of looked at them and gone, so I'll believe it when I see it. But it was interesting to know that Hojlund did that. And I don't know. I think if Manchester United, this depends how badly I think Man United want to move him on. If Man United want to move Hojlund on, then I think they have to explicitly say that to him. I think they have to say, I think Ruben Amorim has to say, I think Wilcox and Omar Barada have to say to him, look, we're sorry. It hasn't worked out. We're going in a different direction. We think it would be best for you if you move elsewhere. We think it would be best for you and your career if you move on. Now, it might be framed as such when they say to him, hey, it's a World Cup year. You're not going to play a lot of games. You're a young guy. You need to be playing football. You've had somewhat success in Italy before. You're comfortable there. I think it'll be a good move for you to go back to Italy, play regularly. AC Milan's a massive football club with a huge amount of history. Look at what they've done in the Champions League across their history. Maybe they're not as big as they once were, but it's still a big club with a big fan base and a lot of expectation. Go there, get form back, get confidence back. And if it goes really well, you can get permanent. If not, you can come back here. That might be what they do. He's just not ready. He's not ready for the Prem. He's not ready for United, and he's not ready for how United want to play as well. The hold-up play just isn't there. I think he's too easy to defend against, and he would benefit actually to go to a more defensive league like Italy. Get better there. And it's not. And again, when we say this, I think sometimes people take that as like you're insulting Hojlund. You're saying he's rubbish, or you're saying he's this, he's saying that. It's not the case at all. It's just saying that Man United, again, this is when I go back to transfer fees and prices and what have you. We overspent. We overspent on a player that wasn't ready for it. We overspent on a player that season prior scored 9 goals in Atalanta. We took a risk and a gamble, which hasn't paid off. So people talk extensively about his transfer fee, which isn't his fault, but he wasn't really put in a position to succeed in a team that wasn't creating a lot of chances. But also two things, or many things, multiple things can be true at the same time, including that all of that is true. He isn't ready. He was put in a position to fail. It's not his fault about the transfer fee, but at the same time, he still was raw and isn't good enough. And that's also another reason for why it all failed too. So I just don't see where he can go at Man United at this point. Now, it might be that he still holds on and believes that he can still contribute to United, and that's how it ends up being a loan. And his intention is always to come back. I'm always going to come back. I need to go away and prove myself. It could be a case, a bit like an Anthony's a great example for how well his loan worked out for him last season with Real Betis. Now, at the moment, he's still technically a United player, but loads of people were talking about how well Anthony had done in his loan spell. If anything, it's kind of resurrected the reputation somewhat of like there's a player in there, not good enough maybe to play for Man United, but there's a player in there and just needs to go somewhere where the fans like him. He's going to play regularly and there's less pressure and less spotlight. Hojlund can be absolutely the same too. You go there. Is there a player in there? There absolutely could be. You don't get to this level by mistake, but you need also a good environment. So go to an environment where I say the pressure's less. It's still AC Milan, which is, again, massive expectation and fan base, but you're more suited to play in Serie A. That's where where you came from Atalanta, and you're going to be playing maybe more regularly than you would be at Manchester United, and the demands aren't going to be as high. Go there, play there, show your quality. And if Man United still don't want you, you can then go to a club that you really want to go to for a good amount of money too. So I still lean towards, I think this one's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be the Milan one. If this Milan one fell apart, I think that maybe United would then start to push and say, look, mate, I'd accept this if I were you, because as a World Cup year, as a young guy, it's time. I know people say it was different with Denmark, with striking options, maybe. I get that. You would think he's probably going to go, he's probably going to go to the World Cup regardless. But I just think the time might be up for that. And then I think with United's desire to do more signings in this window too, I think they'll push it and they'll push for a permanent one for Rasmus Hojlund. We're less now than 200 likes, folks, from 1K likes this morning, which is fantastic on a Friday. So if you haven't already, click that like button. We're still at basically 2,200 people watching live. And we can see the top right-hand corner is a move-in. Yeah, it is a move-in indeed. I swear, just like 5 minutes ago, I was doing the 69 joke, saying that. Now we're at what? 54. 54. Just 54 subscribers to go until 200,000. I tell you what, I think when it comes to I think when it comes to the Trinity, that it either be the moment or we might have hit it by that point. That is interesting. Interesting indeed. Now, before we talk about the Benjamin Sesko salary being revealed, Dylan from United District, I know what you're trying to do to me. I know what you're trying to do to me. I don't know if you're watching this morning, Dylan, but I know what you're trying. Gianluigi Donnarumma. United District, I've just put out a tweet in the last 3 minutes saying, and now we're down to 50 subscribers, by the way, 50 subscribers. United District just put out, Ruben Amorim would love to add a new goalkeeper and a midfielder to Manchester United this summer, reports James Ducker from The Telegraph. According to Ben Jacobs, PSG want at least £26 million for Gianluigi Donnarumma after not offering him a new contract. Would you like to see the Italian at United? Now, if you're not familiar, the story surrounding this one is Manchester United reportedly did put an inquiry in about Donnarumma early in this transfer window. Now, it didn't really go anywhere at the time because the thought process was, it's one of those ones where, yeah, he's got a year left in his contract, but he probably want to stay at PSG, big wages, transfer fee, blah, 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 blah. So it didn't really go anywhere. But because now PSG have signed a new goalkeeper from Lille, and because he's got a year left in his contract, and seemingly they've decided, right, we're not going to give him a new deal, or if he's decided he doesn't want to sign a new deal, whatever, that they think he could go. Now, initially, when this Donnarumma stuff came out, I think it might have been first from L'Equipe, I think maybe. I was like, this won't happen. If we sign Gianluigi Donnarumma, I'll do a hot chip. I said, I'll do a hot chip because it's not going to happen. Because I, like anyone, was thinking, look, Donnarumma, for me, one of the best goalkeepers in the world today. I will not have Donnarumma slander. I won't have it. People tried it during the Champions League last season. They tried it with him because there was an error against Liverpool, wasn't there? I think, and they were like, Donnarumma, he's shit. And I was like, no, he's not. He really is one of the best shot-stopping goalkeepers in the world. You want to say like total package, distribution? All right, yeah, maybe not the best distribution in terms of ball at his feet, but shot-stopping, which is what we need. F off distribution, balls to your distribution, shot stop and keep the ball out of the net. He is top, absolute top. And then we saw through the Champions League, and this isn't even like Onana level of, he was just spraying the ball around in the Champions League final or anything like that. I'm talking when they played Aston Villa, and Villa really should have knocked PSG out with their comeback in the second leg. If it wasn't for Gianluigi Donnarumma making big saves, like 2 in particular, proper saves, they would have been out. I'm talking against Arsenal, home and away, big saves. I'm talking against Liverpool as well at Anfield, big saves. I mean, top, absolute top goalkeeper. So if United could get him, and bear in mind, this is the other thing. Most people assume because he's been around, Donnarumma is an old guy. Not that even matters when it comes to a goalkeeper. But they assume, but he's been around forever, Donnarumma. He's old. He's 26. He's 26 years old. Like he's as a goalkeeper, there's an argument to make he's not even in his prime at the moment. Legitimately, he's 26. And he turned 26 this year in February. And he's been playing in goal since he was 16 for AC Milan. He was that good that he broke through to AC Milan in the sticks at 16. So you've got experience, age, and quality on his side. Like, for 26 million, the only thing that could be scary with him would maybe be wages. That's the only thing that would be a concern there. When you've got a year left on your contract, he's coming from PSG. I don't know if there are salary issues with him and PSG. I don't know if PSG just want to go in a different direction where they, again, want a goalkeeper with better, better at his feet. That might be the case. But 26, age is on his side, experience, quality. If you can get him for 26 million, if you can find a situation where you can make the wages work, then I don't see why you wouldn't do it. The wages might be a problem. It will be interesting to see what other clubs do take a look at it. I'm just trying to think in the Premier League, if there are other clubs that need a keeper. You could certainly make an argument that Chelsea could go. You could certainly make an argument that Chelsea might have a look. I know that obviously they've backed Sanchez a few times, but going from Sanchez to Donnarumma, it's just like going from Onana to Donnarumma. It's not even a comparison. Really, it's like walking to going in a rocket. Like they're just not the modes of transport, but they're just completely different realities of transfer. Or it's going from like walking to teleportation. It's just the mind can't even compute the differences. So yeah, he's top. And I know that again, this is and a bit like with the Hojlund deal, we're scarred with the Onana one. So we're going, Hamza here goes, we're just looking at Champions League performances. No, we're not. We're not just looking at Champions League performances. We're looking at international performances as well for Italy, winning penalty shootouts and getting in a shitty Italy team, by the way, that won the Euros, that then couldn't qualify for World Cups before or after. Donnarumma, and again, in his prime, like 26. Like this, and goalkeepers, this is the other thing as well. Goalkeepers make mistakes. If we signed Donnarumma, he probably would make mistakes in goal at United, because every goalkeeper does. But would never be on the level of Onana. Never. Alisson, who for me is the best goalkeeper in the world, will make mistakes. He makes mistakes, but he doesn't make Onana mistakes. There's difference. There's a difference. And wisdom says there, the irony of the name, find young keepers. He's 26. Edwin van der Sar played to Manchester United until he was 40 and could have played longer. Sir Alex even said, don't retire, mate. You can play longer. Goalkeepers can go for the longest time. Look at the guy he replaced in the Italian team, in Gigi Buffon, one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, played to his mid-40s. It's not, this isn't, he's a reject, Owen. Oh, okay, yeah. And as we got out of this, I know, again, because we've been scarred of signing players from big clubs of, we just get the rejects. Wasn't people like Odegaard signed him from Real Sociedad, Real Madrid reject. Why would you want him? Suddenly playing well at Arsenal. He's their captain. Young player. Mo Salah. Why would Liverpool sign a Chelsea reject? Why would Liverpool sign a Chelsea reject? Could get the Ballon d'Or. Why would City go and get Kevin De Bruyne? Why would they do that? He flop at Chelsea. Don't think so, mate. If Mourinho sold him, I think Mourinho would know about that. So that's not going to work out, is it? Assist records, all over the shop. There are examples for both. There are examples for both. So if you can get Donnarumma, my goodness me, he's top. He's absolute top. And very quickly, finally, before I get to the last thing on Benjamin Sesko, Amanor also says, why the F am I catching all Chavo strays? Hashtag 906. Because that's the reality you live in, Amanor. The main timeline is 616. The timeline that we could be entering into, as I mentioned yesterday, is 2126. If you know, you know. And you live in reality 906. That's the universe you live in. That's the timeline, 906. Never vertical, always horizontal. Very strange. SK says, Owen, I forgot we're United, aren't we? If we get Baleba and Donna, I'll need to take some leave. Really, I'd be happy even putting in work on Baleba for summer too if Brighton are tough. Look, I mean, you know what is, I think, encouraging, I suppose? What is encouraging with the Baleba one? I do think you're right in the regard of, and I appreciate the £10 super chat there, SK, the yellow. There might be a situation whereby if we don't get Baleba this summer, United will go back next year. I think it might be similar to the Caicedo one. With Chelsea, they spent the best part of 2 windows trying to get him, didn't they? There was the whole him coming out and doing the statement about wanting to provide for his family and what have you. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't get him. Then we'll circle back because that's how badly Wilcox wants him. And there might be a situation whereby, again, there might be a release clause next summer. It's just the case of, with a release clause, you then get into the position where other clubs can also activate it, and how interested is he in United versus everyone else. But as Ineos have proven in this window, you don't go for players that don't want to come to Manchester United or are considering other clubs. It's only Manchester United. That's when they start putting bids in, remember? They only put bids in when they only want to go for Manchester United. That's the other part of it. And just very quickly, I just wanted to bring this up regarding Benjamin Sesko. Where is it?
Benjamin Sesko.
Because, again, don't say that Manchester United are going to be we're just throwing money around. That's why we're getting Benjamin Sesko. According to a report coming out last night, Benjamin Sesko's salary at Manchester United is £160,000 a week. Now, like every player or most players at the club, he will get a 25% increase if Manchester United qualify for the Champions League. Today, of course, is Sesko Day. Sesko is set to undergo his medical ahead of a signature and a 5-year contract at Manchester United. The process is starting early this morning. He could be undergoing his medical as we speak. He's going to be unveiled tomorrow at Old Trafford, probably before or at halftime during the pre-season clash against Fiorentina. And actually, Manchester United are very happy with their business in the summer so far. Manchester United believe they've signed 2 of the best players available in the Premier League this summer, with Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo, both signed within budget and without the need for inflated wages. Because that's the point here that we're talking about, wages. £160,000 a week for a striker, that's about par. Now, if you're going to look at people that he's earning similar amounts as, he's earning just 10k more than Luke Shaw, Mazraoui, which are their fullbacks. They never usually get that much money. He's in the same bracket as kind of really everyone that we've most people Ineos have signed. Really, you've got Ugarte. Is on 120, Onana 120, Ahmad's 120, Martinez 120, Mazraoui's 135, Shaw's 150, Mbeumo's 150, Cunha's 180, and then the only people that are higher than that now are Maguire 190, but he's got a year left on his contract. There was reports saying he's probably going to sign a new one, but I would think it'd be on less wages. He might take a pay cut. De Ligt is on 195, and then you've only got 4 players that are above 200k, which is Jadon Sancho, £250,000 a week, allegedly, but we're looking to move him. Mason Mount, 250. I mean, one of the last gasps of the Arnold Woodward-esque era of signing contracts, Man United. Just ridiculous contract, absolute madness. 250k, bullshit. Bruno Fernandes, 300k. Of course, he signed that new contract. I think if you're going to make an argument of who should be the highest paid player at the club, it should probably be Bruno Fernandes, from being the captain, what he's contributed over the last few years. Even in our worst season, he was our best player. So I think that's probably about right, 300k. And then, of course, there's Casemiro, 350, which Ineos every single transfer window are trying to offload, but it's impossible because no one will touch that. No one will touch that. But out of that 4 there, we're talking about, of those players that are above 200k, Sancho, they're trying to get rid. And that's why Jadon Sancho, by the way, doesn't want to accept a pay cut, because he's not getting 250k anywhere else. He's not. Casemiro, he's not getting 350k anywhere else in Europe. He'd probably get it in Saudi, but he's not getting it in Europe. So you look at Sancho and Casemiro, 2 of the top 4 earners, most likely will be gone in the next year. Well, 2 of those contracts expire in the next year. Casemiro expires at the end of next season. So does Jadon Sancho. Sancho's going to be gone this window. So Ineos clearly trying to get the wage budget down and putting Sesko 160k a week. I think that's good money. One of the most sought after strikers in Europe. Young, obviously, as if he gets better and gets bigger. Yeah. So remember, Newcastle, they were going to pay more. So if you're going to say, oh, still a lot of money, 160k, Newcastle, they were going to pay more than that. According to all reports, Newcastle were going to pay more, and Sesko wanted to come to Manchester United so badly that he said, I don't care. You don't have to match the offer that Newcastle have given me. All right, you want to give me 160k right now? Fine, no problem. Leipzig, I know they've offered you less than Newcastle, but accept it. All right, accepted. But we're just spending money willy-nilly. That's the problem, isn't it? United. It's not. That's just the issue. Shame, isn't it? And in fact, before I do wrap up, it's a bit of an extended show this morning. I want to show you guys this. I purposely made note of this morning. I don't know if you've seen this on social media. Since we're talking about the wages, since we're talking about Newcastle and how it's been going for them, I don't know if you've seen this. For your viewing pleasure.
Bring. João Pedro has asked to leave Brighton. Benjamin Sesko will 100% be a Newcastle United player if this is true. Newcastle have quite literally said, no, Isak's staying at Newcastle, and we're also going to take your top striker target off you. Here is my dream transfer window for Newcastle United. The first player to be bought is undoubtedly Brian Mbeumo.
Are we going to come back on this video and just realise that Isak stayed at Newcastle, as we always knew he was going to? James Trafford is coming to Newcastle, hopefully, and not Manchester City.
No! Oh my God. What a window. What a window. It just never stops. It never stops. Oh. Where did we end up in terms of likes? We're less than 50 likes away from 1K, guys. So if you haven't already clicked the like button, we got about 46 likes to go until 1K likes this morning. And you can see in the top right-hand corner there, what's that? 34 subscribers to go until 200K. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. What's on tap for the rest of the day? We will be live 4 p.m. for the Trinity. Flex, KG, and myself will be live 4 p.m. So hope to see you there chatting about everything Manchester United, possibly about Baleba, possibly about who else will we be talking about? Maybe Donnarumma, probably Sesko as well. We shall see. And then also there'll be a match preview. There'll be a match preview coming out probably like evening time, probably about like 6 or 7, probably 7 o'clock for the game against Fiorentina tomorrow as well, because we've got a game of, we've got a preseason friendly, which of course we'll have full coverage from. Flex is going to be at the game. I'll be on the match view as per usual. Right, appreciate everyone for tuning in this morning. Big show. And hopefully more news to come. I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.